Welcome, welcome to another episode of dctbd. We are coming at you live from the Mind Space Center, the Nerve Center here on K Street in Washington, D.C., the Washington Post building. This is our inaugural show from this new space. I'm your co-host, I'm Ian Taronji.
Yes.
Here as always, the lovely Michelle Busch.
Hello, good evening to all.
Yes, yes. And the venerable Marcus K. Dowling.
I'm in the building.
Yes. So this is dctbd. This is your weekly rundown of politics. Usually some more politics, and then
and some collusion.
Some collusion. Some felonies.
T-shirts coming
felonious
soon.
Content, and then we'll talk. We talk culture and
Dipshittery.
the dipshittery, fuckery.
Americana dipshittery.
Americana dipshittery.
Americana dipshittery.
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
Terms.
Yes.
But not fuckery. That is Marcus Donovan's. That's the That's the pasteurized chef's thing. We don't do the fuckery here.
No.
Yes,
We only do dipshittery. Dipshittery is as far as we go.
Americana dipshittery.
That is a line that we do not cross.
Yeah.
So we are happy to have you joining us here again from this beautiful new studio. Want to give a big shout out, thanks to the crew, to Nick and Mike back behind the boards.
Yes, production.
Manning it, making us look good, making us sound good, I hope. And so we've got...
How is this the 21st episode of DCTBD?
This is the for 21 weeks.
Yeah, it's like a thing, isn't it?
God, for 5 months,
We
you
have
to deal with us.
Oh, I don't know how y'all do it. All two, three viewers.
God bless you.
Both of you.
Both of you.
Both
Thank
of
you.
you.
And I think it's just us.
Yeah, that's
Follow.
right. That's right. I'm like, wow, we've got 2 viewers. And I'm like, wait a
Following each
second.
other.
Michelle's on. I'm on.
Yeah, that's just us.
Shit.
We're just following each other.
You know, it's all love, man. It's all love.
It is.
Who? Oh, hey.
Boo boo.
What
Boo
up?
boo.
Say something.
Yeah, so let's give a little rundown what we're going to talk about tonight. We are going to talk. We had a pretty extraordinary week. This is why I like doing the show on Monday. We really get to reset the week that was.
Yes.
And it was a pretty remarkable week last week, especially Tuesday. Tuesday seemed to be sort of like the ground zero of like Trump world imploding. Basically, the walls are kind of
Crumbling.
are closing in on him.
This is the first of many times where this will occur.
Yeah.
So this is.
It's
So
day
we're
to
gonna
day, week to week.
So we're gonna talk Mueller investigation, Russia investigation stuff, and Trump's Americana dipshittery.
Yeah.
Then we're gonna talk about the passing of Senator John McCain, Republican senator from Arizona, six times was elected to the United States Senate.
Right.
Venerable, they're actually talking about changing the name of the renaming the Russell Senate building to the McCain building.
That's wonderful.
And so I think
do that.
I think that there is a lot of positive that we can discuss. Even us on the left side of the spectrum, there's a lot of positive that we can discuss.
Right.
But I think we also shouldn't paper over a lot of the problematic
No, of course.
things that he stood for,
Of course.
and things that he tried to do. So
Of course.
we're gonna I think I'd like to say that we're gonna have a fair reading of Senator McCain's legacy.
Yeah.
Don't you
Yeah.
think?
Yeah, I think that there's varying shades of the left here, so I
Yeah.
feel like we'll be good with that.
And the title of the show is what did I say? Rest well, Maverick.
That's right.
We're still a mess.
Indeed, we are.
We're still a mess.
I also want to talk about the DNC this week eliminated superdelegates.
Yep.
Yes.
And so my question coming out of that is, first of all, did Bernie actually in some ways win the 2016 Democratic primary?
Ooh.
And secondly, getting rid of superdelegates, that all sounds great. That's sort of a win for the Bernie Sanders wing, but is that a good thing?
No.
Is it a good thing?
No.
We will discuss. If we have time, and God, I really, really hope we do, I want to talk about Nicki Minaj.
Who?
What is going on?
What is it?
What is going on
It
with my girl, Nikki?
It was put
Nikki,
together.
if you're watching,
oh God.
we're here for you.
No, he may be here for you. Let me look at this camera. What's up, girl? But good stuff. But
we have your best interests at heart.
no, he has your best interests.
We're just gonna have an honest conversation.
I think sometimes we have to have an honest conversation.
Well, we're gonna be real honest
with the ones that we love.
Yes.
There it is.
So you must love Nikki.
We're gonna have our Bish sesh, and then we're also gonna talk about my favorite thing. So let's get right into it. On Tuesday, this past Tuesday, Paul Manafort, former chair of the Trump 2016 campaign for president, found guilty in federal United States District Court, Alexandria, Virginia.
240 years.
8 counts of bank fraud.
Yep.
And yeah, that's not going well for him. He also faces, coming in the next, I think, week or so, the start of another trial in federal district court in Washington, D.C., where he's going to be tried.
He's already got 240 years.
Yeah, how many more can we give him? Is he going to?
We're about to find out.
Is he going to take all of the years that
we're about to find out.
Some of Trump would have?
So we're about to find out.
So I think that the most fascinating thing about the decision there is that we're gonna get I want somebody to calculate the number of years that people get in prison at the end of this, because we're gonna get around 5,000 years in prison
probably
total.
Yeah.
By the time this is all done.
So next week, let's tally so far how many years we're at right now.
Right.
Let's.
No, you're going to end up
let's do the math.
Let's you do that.
And I'm sure that some people find this number to be ostentatious.
You do that.
No, but I'm sure that some people are going to find the number ostentatious. It's 5,000 years in prison. That doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
But ultimately, for the case of American democracy, it means that it's clearly beyond flawed at this point.
Well, the Manafort question is this: you're right. He is facing functionally the remainder of his days behind bars. He faces that prospect.
And a few more.
So the question is, should he flip on Trump? And there's a couple of schools of thought. One is, no, he need not do that because he can wait for the pardon. However, if the old man is guilty of the crimes that we think he's guilty of, he may not be around to pardon anybody. And you got to think about that if you're Manafort. Do I want to wait around after this guy gets on the plane and does one of these, and all of a sudden Mike Pence isn't pardoning Paul Manafort?
No.
So
Pence has nothing to do with any of this.
No.
The other thing, though, does Manafort have anything useful that a federal prosecutor would want? That is less clear. I tend to think he might. He certainly sat in on the infamous Trump Tower, the Don Jr.
Yeah.
I think that's
the adoption conversation.
The adoption conversation. Yeah.
I think I honestly believe that may just be it, because everything else, it didn't come as a shock when the counts came in. I was like, okay, that sounds about right.
Listen,
yeah,
if you take a federal criminal trial to a jury, you're likely to lose because federal prosecutors don't play around.
They don't.
They have their shit together. They have that case is locked down tight. And as we've said before, your average federal prosecutor doesn't play around. And Mueller has put together an A team of federal prosecutors.
I really think
these cases are locked down tight.
Mueller's case is starting to grow, and I think that's it's problematic. Okay, so there's a report that the Republicans are now starting to pass around this document of things that could feasibly happen if they lose the House, because this Manafort thing was a big deal. Because, so I feel like nobody thought that anybody was going to get indicted on anything, that nobody's actually going to get caught. You're going to have a whole bunch of trials. You're going to have a whole bunch of, legal, there's going to be a lot of legal wrangling, but there's going to be nobody actually getting caught.
Right.
And now that they've caught Manafort, it's so this is the beginning of, all of the, all the president's men at this point, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
And I mean, you're not going to get all of them. You're not going to get to Trump. But when you start to see these people start to capitulate, at what point, as a Republican in Congress, are you starting to think, okay, well, this man ran under my party, and I have to now defend him when I run for elective office?
Well, the calculus is pretty simple. The calculus, because people, I keep hearing this, and it drives me a little crazy because a lot of it is histrionic. When will the Republicans discover their oversight, their co-equal branch of constitutional government? Look, it's very simple. Politicians act out of self-interest, and right now it is in elected Republican officials' self-interest, electoral self-interest, to continue to look the other way at everything that Trump is doing.
Right.
How much
We can
long-
sit here and debate whether that's moral, whether you should be taking a principled stand. I think that there's great desire on the right for somebody, a conservative, to stand up and do what John McCain has done so many times and take a principled stance and say, look, my party is wrong. The people running my party are wrong. This is what we need to do. This is what's consistent with our American values.
Name me that guy.
There isn't one.
There it is.
There's
Well,
not,
I mean,
not a single
that's-
fucking one.
That's what
Not
I was going
a-
to say.
not
I'm
a
like,
damn
why?
one.
Why isn't anybody stepping up like John McCain did?
Because it is in their electoral self-interest. Because if you are that person, you are going to get primaried, and you're going to get primaried by a crazier Republican.
I'll put it like this: one of the great things about John McCain is that he represented the state of Arizona, which is notoriously one of the most conservative states in the union.
Right.
So therefore, he was grandfathered into that role. He was there for 36 years. You know, so he could kind of do what he wanted to do as long as he brought home the bacon, as long as he brought home the pork barrel legislation at election time. And if you look at the level of finance out there and the kinds of people that he's representing, it's kind of simple. Like, you're like, okay, so I need to get a new front door for high school, and need to make sure that these people who run the businesses in the state of Arizona are getting nice tax breaks. Other than that, I'm good.
Do you think he really did own a Public Enemy?
Are we?
CD?
Have we bled into our next topic?
I mean,
we may have.
I mean,
Because listen, we didn't even get to the most important thing that happened on Tuesday.
Definitely.
Because Paul Manafort getting convicted on 8 counts, that was huge.
yeah.
I feel like the Michael Cohen news was bigger because we actually have a guilty plea in which someone has implicated President Trump
Right.
in a felony.
We saw what happened on Twitter
I
when
think
that
it got
went down.
overshadowed though a little bit. I think everybody was just, not maybe for our circle of folks, but I think everybody else was just stuck on. He's gonna flip, or look at
who's
how
gonna
many
flip
how
it?
many counts he got. Look at
It's like an episode of Law and Order for a lot of people.
So
But
Manafort's the sexier one, but Cohen's the actual
my God.
lawyer involved in all this.
So it's like he.
depends what your type is.
So one is like The Young and the Restless, and the other one is like The Bold and the Beautiful.
Exactly.
It's the hour-long soap opera with the half an hour that you
Right.
really didn't watch,
Yeah.
but it was on.
Totally.
Oh
So
my
I feel
God.
like
The mere fact that I just explained it like
it was
that.
well done.
Wow, yeah.
But anyway, so I feel like people did it because people don't understand Cohen's role.
No.
And all this. Like, Manafort's role is really obvious. Like, he ran the campaign. It's a very obvious thing. Even if you don't know what a campaign director does, you're like, he is a person of significant importance in the electoral process of somebody running for president.
Until he got fired.
Right. And then you're like, okay, so
He
Cohen,
was in that meeting though.
right, of course he was. The adoption meeting.
Cohen knows where all the bodies are buried.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
But
The real bodies.
Right. And Cohen, but that's not sexy. So that's one of the benefits of him flipping is that he's a okay, so it's funny. When Trump went on Twitter and proceeded to bury Michael Cohen under 100 years of rubble, which was astounding. That's your lawyer, dog.
If you're looking for a lawyer, I recommend you not retain the services of Michael Cohen.
It was like,
Well,
wow.
Attorney at
that's
law.
why Rudy Giuliani,
It was like, wow.
the
okay.
the Godfather.
It was
My God.
crazy. Like,
Well, what Cohen did was he pled guilty to campaign finance violations.
Right.
And the theory behind the campaign finance violations, you cannot make unreported expenditures on behalf of the campaign
Right.
with the express intent to influence the outcome of the election, without doing the proper reporting. And there's not a box that you can check for paying off porn stars that I may or may not have had sexual relations with in the past.
Yeah.
And so this is a campaign finance violation that he is pleading guilty to, and he is implicated. I mean, you effectively have President Trump as an unindicted co-conspirator
but here's
in crimes that are not merely alleged. That's the important thing here.
Right.
Cohen has pled guilty. He has admitted in open court in front of a federal judge that he did these things. and that these things happen. You can question his credibility, and those questions are more than fair. But I'm sure that his testimony alone is not what is going to be the foundation of whatever case gets laid against Donald Trump. It's going to be Cohen's testimony that also happens to support the mountains of documents over here.
So here's my problem with campaign finance reform: is that for 25 years, we have established that campaign finance violations exist, significant ones. We go back to the Newt Gingrich days, where like campaign finance reform, campaign finance violations are a thing that people are aware of and get, and they're aware that they happen. And we finally got somebody like 25 years later. So it's like, it's okay. So
They tried to prosecute John Edwards on campaign finance violations.
Yeah, you tried.
Tried.
But you didn't get anybody. So here's the problem with that though, is that it's like if I woke up tomorrow and they said that let me think. Good example. Let me say if they said like
We're only on until 9:30.
No, stop. if they said Louis Farrakhan killed Malcolm X.
Oh, wait a minute.
And it's like 33. It's like
I'm gone.
55 years later, right? We've now discovered this, and you're like,
I want to see you bring this back around.
So you're like, okay, so 55 years has gone by.
Because I'm stuck here with my mouth open.
And we figured out, okay, the person who did it. So this is the same thing with campaign finance reform. We've waited for like 25 years to like get one person.
We've gotten close.
Right, gotten close, but we got one person. Like that's like a big fish in this. Like one person. So, but in 25 years, we've like kind of like saltpetered people to the idea that like there's anything of like deep, significant concern about this. That's the stuff that troubles me. Is like Trump's okay, and I want people to understand this. Trump's okay with somebody taking an L for campaign finance reform. It's when you get into things like illicit sexual behavior, things that have never existed in the history of American politics at that level in conversation, in legal conversation, then that's the troublesome stuff because that's new, hot, and sexy stuff.
Well, I would say campaign finance. I mean, think about it this way. I mean, when you think about campaign finance, it is illegal to not report the expenditures of paying a porn star that you may have had sex with, but it is perfectly legal for Amazon to create a PAC that has millions and millions of dollars that they can throw into.
But the average American citizen doesn't know the difference.
We get into campaign finance.
Porn, Amazon.
Right. So like the average American citizen doesn't understand that though. That's the thing. If you have to understand also that like especially with Trump's constituency, his base, they're not that politically aware. So they hear just the words campaign finance reform and a picture of Newt Gingrich from 25 years ago pops up in their heads.
They don't even know who that is.
Right, a picture of John Edwards from 10 years ago pops up in their heads.
They may know he's married to the
pretty sure John Edwards
lady.
and Newt Gingrich don't pop up in anybody's heads.
No, but when you talk to like the average person who's like a Trump supporter who may be politically aware, that's what they think of. They're not thinking of like this is a pressing major issue of concern. Right. Because the things that they're pressing major issues of concern when it comes to Trump are like, okay, did he have sex with that woman? Did he?
I mean,
and if he did, then did she pee on him? That's the genius of Trump is that he's the ultimate, he's the king of the red herring officially.
Just so nasty.
Like he's the king of the red herring. Like they got two people who are very intrinsic to his inner circle on like very obvious, terrible, flawed violations of American law.
Yes, we call those felonies.
Right, like just serious. Like these are serious felonies. Like
go to jail, do not pass go.
And
do not pass go.
And Manafort has 240 years in jail.
Yeah.
At no point does anybody who actually supports this man do they actually care.
Does he have friends? Like who are his friends?
Who, Manafort?
Yeah. Does he have friends?
Listen, the man walks around in an ostrich skin vest.
It was sexy.
If he has friends, they're not helping him.
It reminded me of
they're not helping
Waiting
him.
to Exhale, as we were just talking about it. You raggedy bitch.
I love it.
Like if he has friend, like if I was Paul Manafort's friend, the first thing I'd be like,
Let me talk to you for a little bit.
Hey man, let me pull your coat.
why don't we just
No pun intended.
I think this is going to be hot next season, but this season maybe not so much. Why don't we just put this like in the back of the closet?
I'm still going with Andre Leon Talley. He burned him up.
Because people are, I mean,
It was beautiful. He burned him up.
That's the other part of this is that in the midst of these like red herrings, is that the people that are executing them are like out of central casting for like a really bad version of like The Apprentice in 2018,
God.
where it's like, okay, so like Omarosa, what are you gonna do? I'm gonna write a book.
Her book. So we were at the bookstore on Saturday on 8th Street. Maybe they'll be a sponsor for us.
Solid State. Yeah, I love Solid State. Know one of the owners. They're good people.
Actively soliciting sponsorships. By the way, you can get your company's name right here on dctbd.
Yeah, so Solid State.
Guaranteed to be seen by at least
1,700.
2 people. At least 2 people.
I thought it was 1,700 yesterday. Oh, okay.
I said at least 2.
At least 2.
That's all I'm promising.
Somewhere between 2 and 1,700.
2 and 1,700. But the book was just so...
Under promise, over deliver.
It was just there. It wasn't on the good table. It wasn't even on the back table.
It's just there.
It was just...
So it's not in the clearance bin yet.
It's not in the clearance bin
not
yet.
yet.
Not
but
yet.
it was not in sort of like the
But
featured
was
first
just,
table that you see.
No, absolutely. It was not in the beautiful, colorful... What was the
with
picture?
The lights shining down.
Oh, no. The subtle art of not giving... Yeah, like it was nowhere near any of that. It was muted in with some other books, and it was like... Oh, there's her book.
Yeah, so you have
it was like 2 copies of it.
It's like next to a book that has a dragon on the cover.
No. The dragon was more...
Rudy Giuliani's in his Yankees ring, just waving it about in the air so that people could see it. Like, these are people behaving in epic ways to ensure that we don't pay attention to like the... Okay. My favorite one I thought
Giuliani should be shunned from society just for wearing a Yankees championship ring. I don't give a shit that you were mayor of New York. I don't give a shit that you're a lifelong Yankees fan.
We just don't give a shit.
You should be shunned for wearing a Yankees championship ring.
World Series champions don't wear their rings in public like that.
No, they're in a vault.
That's right.
Like Alex Rodriguez didn't wear it at the MTV, VMAs.
No.
That's right.
Was it like, hey, J-Lo, here's my ring?
Here's my ring.
No, so... That's the thing.
Alex seems very happy being a kept man.
I would be too. But
I mean, have you seen her?
49.
She looks
49. I'm up here looking on the screen like I'm trying to figure out how we can
get the girls together.
Get the girls together. Anyway.
But in any event, that's what I'm talking. Like, this is where we're at with this administration. Like, Trump has found people that are willing to act in foolish ways.
I wonder what Rex is doing.
Don't you believe that?
Anybody talk to Rex Tillerson? He is sitting back like, God, thank you, Jesus. I was let go from this mess.
He's on some like wooden sailboat in Kennebunkport.
I mean,
fuck you.
I mean, how much did he release? Exxon Mobil, whatever.
Yeah,
for?
I'm sure he cashed
millions of dollars.
Yeah. The other funny thing that happened, a couple more funny things happened. We found out that I believe his name is David Pecker.
Pecker.
Yes.
The unfortunately named Mr. Pecker.
Mr. Pecker.
Terrible
hey, Mr. Pecker.
Has apparently turned state's evidence.
Yes.
The this guy runs the National Enquirer, and the National Enquirer, that was sort of like their MO. They call it, what is it, like catch and don't release or something like that? Or
they burned.
Catch and kill.
I don't
know. So they pay for the story, and then they never run the story.
With the whole last name Pecker and Catch, that was just like, no. It's a bad joke.
I just love the
fact that's Mr. Pecker.
I love the fact that they got all that they took all of
at Shelby of DC.
They took all of the stories and they burned them and they like just destroyed them.
Right.
It's like, okay, Don, we're gonna
picture like a Big Lebowski type scene of a man in front of a big huge fireplace just throwing
everything in there.
Notes.
I just
this bimbo and this bimbo.
I just want to know what the check looked like. Was it like a golf check?
Ooh, honey, that check was.
We are big fans of golf checks.
We
are
like
big,
golf
big
checks.
fans of golf checks.
It's a golf check. It's definitely it's the big golf check handoff
Yeah.
from Don Jr.
We could use
Fredo.
one over here.
When you need the whole backseat of your car
Yep.
to take that
Right.
check down to the bank.
That's Fredo.
And you're standing in line at the bank and you
I'm
got
a
this
big-
gigantic cardboard.
I am gonna be on the X2 with my check.
To me, that's Fredo. That's Fredo's job. Fredo's the one who goes to the Inquirer. That's his job.
Fredo.
That's an A-level job right there.
Oh,
It looks
Fredo.
like Trump, the Trump organization CFO has also turned state's evidence. There's a story out there, I don't know how accurate it is, that the doorman at Trump Tower
Yes,
alleges
the doorman.
that Donald Trump has had yet another brilliant child, this time with, I guess, like a housemaid or something
Yeah,
like that, or
of
a
course.
service worker at Trump Tower.
Oh yeah.
But look at all these people.
It's
that are
out
like-
there. I didn't write it.
Again,
I didn't
look at
write
all
it, and
these-
I'm not vouching. I'm not vouching for
Like
the
I said.
accuracy of that story in particular.
Okay, so in the
I
midst
think we
of,
should give these people their privacy.
in the midst of all of this, the Chinese and the Americans are negotiating tariffs back and forth every day.
We're
and
still
just,
at war.
And just setting the standards by which we are going to, have war
Well, he
against
said
each other.
he said that he's close to a deal with Mexico to sort of like redo NAFTA.
Okay.
So this may be his strategy. Your strategy is like the nation comes together around a wartime president. So he's starting a war, but he's doing a bloodless war. He's starting a trade war, and then when he solves the trade war, he's going to be the big hero.
Oh yeah. No, and
That's how he's gonna play
It's
himself.
it's the biggest collusion yet. Like you got half the team in China, and then all of a sudden you bring up because most of Trump's supporters don't understand that China's actually like a country where they do things other than make Chinese food.
Oh
I'm
my
just being honest. Like
oh my
that's a
God.
thing.
Wow.
So they're thinking, okay, so like
Wow.
there's Mexico. Mexico because Mexico's
And they do more than make Mexican food.
They do.
Yes.
They import drugs over the border. That's what they do.
I was about to say something so wrong, and I'm
But
just
that's-
gonna
that's
swallow
where we
those
are.
words. And
So it's easier to get your people
This-
on board with Mexico. Like we're working out NAFTA. NAFTA became regulation in 1992.
And how many of Trump's supporters even know what NAFTA means?
Oh, a lot of them do because they used to work for those automotive companies that got shafted by NAFTA in '92.
How many of our
when
three-
their jobs went to Mexico and never came back?
How did we go from collusion to global?
Because that's collusion.
It's collusion.
It's collusion. It's clear collusion. Like we're gonna have a conversation with the Mexicans about NAFTA.
Like our DCTBD T-shirt is going to be collusion, and then it's going to have arrows that are just going
how
to
did you-
everything of what
Like that's the
collusion
It's just so funny. It's
is.
like we were doing okay with China, but China's not pushing the needle. China's not pushing the needle with the Times.
No.
The New York Times isn't really excited about China. They weren't reporting about it. The only people that were reporting about China, like we talked about last week, were the Financial Times. The only people really diving in
Yeah.
and like really making big news headlines.
So if anybody would like to buy DCTBD, so it's just Ian and myself because he already has a subscription.
Yes, I do.
So if anybody
It's
would like
way
to
too
buy
expensive.
Ian and I, we will share the password like Netflix.
It's crazy. So like, there's just stuff like where it's like, okay, so like we're gonna, this tariff negotiation thing is working. It's
We
good.
could also we'll also take a sponsorship from the Financial Times as well.
Yes,
Oh,
that
absolutely.
would be great.
They are busy.
We're in the Washington Post building.
Hey.
We got you, FT.
Yeah,
Yes.
there it is. So in any event, so now they're like, okay, so this China thing's not necessarily working. It's not pushing the needle where we want it to. Let's go talk to the Mexicans
Hey.
because everybody knows Mexico.
Hola.
Well, all right.
Uh-oh.
This is a topic of great interest to me.
Okay, come
It's
on.
a topic for which I'm ill prepared.
Did it
tonight.
surprise you?
No.
No, it didn't.
that NAFTA suddenly came into
No,
conversation.
and I'll tell you two things really quickly about any potential deal with Mexico. There's obviously a third party to the North American Free Trade Agreement,
Right.
that being the nation of Canada.
We don't talk
Prime
about
Minister
them.
Prime Minister Trudeau has already said he's not interested in renegotiating any part of NAFTA, and certainly not on a bilateral, U.S.-Canada basis. And so that gets me to my second point about this Mexico thing, which is the person that Trump is dealing with, who is Peña Nieto.
Yes.
And this guy is a just a class A fucking moron, this guy. Like, Peña Nieto, like, he is one of the most unpopular. He's probably going to go to jail when he's done with his term as president.
So this is who he's negotiating with.
I'm not gonna get into the specifics of the Mexican political game. We have enough trouble here with the American political game. This guy's just a fuckwad.
But that's the guy. But that's the guy Don's choosing to negotiate with.
That's bad.
Yeah,
that's the guy.
It is bad.
That's
so I
bad.
think what you're gonna get ultimately is some kind of a deal that's gonna be nothing of significance that they're going to trumpet, especially Trump is going to trumpet as, look at me, I'm the great deal maker.
I worked around NAFTA.
You ever hear of a little thing called the art of the deal?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I just pulled on Peña Nieto.
I got some jobs back.
The great president, Peña Nieto. All right.
Would you rather deal with him
Yeah.
or would you see him deal with Justin Trudeau?
Oh no. And I'm the one.
He's
talking
not going to
about-
he's not going to get over on Justin Trudeau.
Right.
He will get over on Peña Nieto.
And he knows that.
So, all right. Like I say, I feel ill prepared for that discussion because that is actually something of
No, but I knew
great
that,
interest to me.
but I had to go there because
Yeah.
it's happening. And I'm like, when I saw it pop up today, I said, we have to talk about that
It's the
briefly.
bloodless war theory. Oh my.
It's happening.
It is happening. All right, let's talk for a few minutes about Senator John McCain. He passed away, was it Saturday?
Yes.
Yeah.
Saturday. And we're recording this, obviously, Monday evening. There's been tributes and lionization of the man. And, to be sure, there's I think, a lot of good things that we can say. He obviously, he's a Republican. He was a conservative, kind of came up in sort of that Reagan conservative mode. He's from Arizona, so there's the specter of Barry Goldwater that always hangs over Arizona conservatives, especially of that time, late 70s, early 80s. He is a graduate of the Naval Academy. In fact, his remains will be interred on the grounds of the Naval Academy in Annapolis. And I heard a story, I'm not sure, and again, I don't like to just shit on people, but I heard that he was actually like bottom of his class at the Naval Academy, like literally bottom of his class.
I think all of us
And
have heard that.
Mike's giving me thumbs up, so
Yeah.
I think he's...
419 or something like
Yeah.
Yeah. Out of like 400 and
And he was someone whose father had attended the Naval Academy, had served in the Navy. His grandfather had attended the Naval Academy and served in the Navy, so he was carrying on the family tradition. His time for service happened to coincide with the Vietnam War.
Yes.
So he flew missions in Vietnam. He was actually shot down, survived the crash, but was taken captive by the North Koreans. He had suffered a broken leg, broken ribs, like all kinds of shit, and then endured approximately another 5 years of captivity, torture. That is heroic, and the most heroic part of that to me is that at some point, his father was I can't recall if his father was a senator or it had some kind of, his father was important in some respect, and so he had the opportunity to be released early, and he said,
Right.
are the rest of
right.
my folks being released too? And they said, no, just you. And he said, no, I'm staying.
Yeah. And endured more beating.
Right.
More torture.
It's like they beat him for saying no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's and as a public servant, he has many times bucked his party. He has worked across the aisle. He has sponsored legislation with Ted Kennedy. He was a signatory to the famous McCain-Feingold campaign finance
Yes.
Yep,
law,
campaign finance.
which is, after Supreme Court decisions, has been obliterated. It
Right.
no longer really serves any purpose. But he co-sponsored that legislation with Senator Russ Feingold of the great state of Wisconsin, and so there's a legacy of bucking his party. That's where he kind of gets the Maverick label.
Right.
But there are also other things to consider. And I, for one, have always found it strange that someone who suffered so needlessly, because the Vietnam War was a really needless
war.
Right.
Who suffered so needlessly, seemed so constantly ready to have the United States military entangle itself anywhere
In war.
and everywhere. I mean, you know, he obviously ran for president in 2008 against Barack Obama, and lost. He also ran for president in 2000. He ran for the Republican nomination.
Right.
It was basically him against George W. Bush. You know, I mean, the thought exercise is always, how does Al Gore respond to the events of September 11th, 2001? But I always think, to me, it's always kind of like, what if we'd had President McCain?
Oh,
It would have been.
It might have bombed.
there would be a hole in the ground.
More, yeah.
An actual
It would have
country
been.
would
It would
cease
have
to
been more than the book being upside down.
Yeah, so I mean, it's so I feel like, you know, again, like you said earlier, Marcus, we represent various shades of left.
Yes.
Because I'm probably the closest to the center of the three of us.
Yeah.
I don't know where
I'm way out there.
you're an advocate of Chinese socialism.
Damn right I am.
Do you watch Bill Maher, by the way?
Of course, yeah.
Did you see his
Yeah.
his new rules at the end, where he was basically like, if the Republicans are going to be bought by Russia, it's time for Democrats to put themselves up for sale. Hey, China,
Yes, I'm all for it. I'm all for it.
if you're listening,
I'm all for it.
find the tax returns. Yeah.
I've
I've been saying that for a while. Like, if if nobody suffers consequences from colluding with Russia, like, I say we call up China and just be like,
the Chinese are ready too. That's the crazy part.
these tariffs on you suck.
Yeah.
We'll definitely get rid of the tariffs on you. Just
Right. So here's
get us that P tape.
Here's my take on on John McCain. I've always felt like John McCain understood the base level American ideal, like the base level, not like, you know, like because the Democrats get too into, like, you know, ideology and deep thought, and a lot of the Republican, you know, side gets into, like, you know, this antithesis of whatever the Democrats are doing. But McCain was there to, like, understand that, like, if you tell a person that the military is there to protect their freedom, then the military has one job. When you are, you know, when your freedom is being, you know, when your freedom is in peril, the military's job is to go to war to protect your freedom. And that was always his take on going to war. Now, whether or not he was a warmonger, that's the depth of the level of battle that he would, you know, like, oftentimes advocate for. And, you know, that's problematic. But again, if you needed somebody to have a strict constructionalist read on what it was to be an American, at the core base of what it was, I think that's the one thing that allowed him to cross the aisle so much, is that he understood that, okay, so, like, after the Civil Rights Movement, after, like, you know, 1970, like, Americans are very diametrically opposed. And he always, in a lot of ways, because so much of his career is tied to Vietnam, he always stayed on that line that was created by the Vietnam War, where there's that, like, liberalism that walks both sides of the aisle, where you understood, like, you know, your son or your daughter who strayed to the left, if only because the war,
because of the war,
and society was so wrong on the right.
right?
And he could reach across and say, hey, I get it. And he didn't have to say much past, I get it. Like, I understand. And I think that's the part where a lot of modern thought on McCain gets it wrong, is that we've had 50 years of life since 1970. In that time, there's been advancement. So this middle ground that exists, there's also now a big giant left and a big giant right. When it used to be this big giant thing in the middle, and that's where McCain was.
Yeah.
And that makes it hard to, like, for some people to, like, actually understand why he did what he did. So I mean, I feel like very, very strongly about McCain in a lot of ways.
Yeah,
in the
yeah.
sense that he got it.
And then, Michelle, I know you had a lot of thoughts about.
I
Senator
did. I
McCain.
did because, as we were posting, in regards to his death, I knew that there were going to be so many people that were saying, well, why are we saying rest well to this individual? What did he, as everybody loves to say, what did he do for us? What he only thought about his party or himself. And I just go back to the campaign trail, and I go back to, of course, the video that they always show is the woman that is calling Barack an Arab. And I
Right.
mean, he snatches the microphone. Oh, no, we're not doing that.
Yeah, back in 2008.
We're not doing
Yeah.
that. And I remember, and I put this on Facebook, that I remember on the campaign trail in Virginia, that another comment came up, and gentleman was going in, and he said, nope, we're not going to do that today. You have a good day, and walked away. He walked away to another group of people, and it was just, it was wonderful to me. I still believe that he should have picked Joe Lieberman.
Yeah, I was about to say.
Joe was so good.
Joe is so good.
He's so bad.
And I mean, he
Fuck
said
that
it.
guy.
I should not have picked Sarah Palin as my running mate.
No, but, okay,
Well,
so,
that was where I was going to go. I was going to say, yes, it was very honorable of him to say, no, ma'am, he's a good American.
Right.
He and I just disagree.
Right.
But, he also unleashed Palin and
And that was
really,
not good.
really gave voice to a strong, what was a strong undercurrent, but still an undercurrent in the conservative
do you-
movement. That sort of
So
anti-intellectual.
do you think, like, everybody that he, that when he introduced Palin and all of these, folks that are, I don't want to say the Rust Belt, but just, I feel like the new Trump supporters, like, he gave voice to all of the people that we're now having to deal with.
And I understand it strategically. It was
he was a
2008.
party guy.
Everybody was pissed off at George W. Bush. He knew that
Yes.
he knew that he was skating uphill in 2008
Right.
against the man who would go on to be the first African American president. Just history, like the wind just seemed to be behind
Right.
Barack Obama.
And his
like he knew he had to throw the Hail Mary. And Sarah Palin was an attractive white woman,
Yes.
Republican governor from
Alaska.
and
I can see Russia.
she just turned out to be so ill-equipped.
So
and
what do you think about his conceding speech? People still to this day talk about that.
Yeah, I mean,
I was watching a report, and they asked Hillary Clinton, Hillary, did you watch his speech as you were preparing for? It was kind of yes, I remember it. I was like, Hillary, stop lying. But what do you think about that? Once again, he was telling America, no, you're not going to sit up here and boo. You're going to listen to what I have to say, and we are going to go back to the business that we have at hand.
Yeah, it's a noble idea that simply has no place in our conversation these days. It's unfortunate. It's unfortunate that we have become as tribal as we have. I keep sitting here. I'm like, I've been like radicalized by the GOP. I've been radicalized by what's happened to the conservative movement and to his party. And while I can appreciate, my Twitter handle is woke since '84. I've been following politics, presidential politics in particular, since 1984.
He's just a little older than us.
I'm a little older.
Same here.
And
I've been woke since '78.
There it is.
Okay.
There it is.
I remember the style of politics that McCain harkens back to, even if he didn't always live up to that ideal himself. But I think it's good that he puts it out there. But it is also a relic of a past time in politics. It's a relic that just it's a mentality that simply doesn't exist anymore in our political reality in 2018.
We had a moment in '92. And I feel like it's a moment that we don't talk about enough.
That's a year you don't really discuss.
Yeah, we don't.
92?
92.
Wow.
Yeah.
High school.
I know. I was 14.
Yes.
There it is.
Tribe Called Quest on cassette.
Yeah. So we don't talk about 92. 92, we bring in Bill Clinton,
Yeah.
who for all intents and purposes, was the
First black president.
No, but he was the Camelot guy.
Watch it.
No, he wasn't. He was Camelot. He was Camelot.
It was Camelot Part 2.
Yeah, he was Camelot.
Him was not.
And
Him was
what?
not.
He was Camelot, men in tights.
Right, and the thing that I felt that we missed with that was how swift John McCain was to realize, because again, he comes from Vietnam. His entire people miscast and misunderstand his career. You forget that he ran for office after he was a war prisoner.
Yeah.
Therefore, everything that he does for the rest of life is defined by this one thing.
Mm-hmm.
So when he sees Bill Clinton get elected, he's a pot-smoking hippie liberal who's president. He's like, I know this guy.
Oh yeah, well this gets me into a whole other conversation.
Right, but I'm saying
about,
he knew that guy.
Yeah, no, I know. That's exactly right, and that's why they did not get along. That's why they never did. Although, when Hillary Clinton was a senator, apparently she and John McCain did get along.
Right, because Hillary's a whole different animal.
Well, I think in many ways Hillary kind of represents more of that 60s, 70s liberalism to a lot of people than Bill, and that's a big part of the reason why she lost.
I think that the thing is that McCain had a moment when he did, the campaign finance reform, with how swiftly people don't remember. He suggested it was an idea that needed to happen. Mm-hmm. He found Russ Feingold.
Oh, wow.
They sat down.
I haven't heard that name.
They put it together. It rolled out.
Yeah.
They booted it through Congress, literally, machine style, ramrodded it through Congress. These are men and women.
I was more paper football.
Right.
At recess.
Yeah, but no, they ramrodded the thing through Congress. Literally, they went to people who were guilty of campaign finance issues under this legislation and said, "You're voting for this."
Yes.
But it doesn't matter because
I'm gonna tell on you.
The Supreme Court's gutted it. I mean,
right. But in '92, at that time, for a liberal and conservative of the renown at that point.
For sure.
Of McCain to ramrod campaign finance reform through Congress in 1992 at the height of all sorts of graft and all sorts of unnecessary levels of
there certainly
campaign
was that
finance violation.
But let's also be fair. In 1992, we did have a Democratic House and a Democratic Senate.
Right.
It was much easier to get progressive.
But still, you still have to look at this man.
Yeah.
And go, why are you? why are you the one who is at the forefront of this?
I think that was actually a principle of his was campaign finance, and that this is another topic that I feel like we could do almost an entire show on is because this gets into First Amendment issues. I mean, that's the basis. Mm-hmm. That's been the basis for the Supreme Court gutting any attempts at campaign finance, and we should really talk about this as someone who I read up on a lot of constitutional law. So that's an issue. That's an issue.
You and Barack.
Yeah, me and Barack.
You and Barack.
No, Barack does not put me in his category. Let's move on really quickly. The DNC voted this week. The Democratic National Committee voted this week to eliminate superdelegates from its presidential nominating process in 2020.
Yes.
Just really quickly to bet what superdelegates are. In order to win a party's nomination, you have to win the majority of delegates at the convention. And the Democratic Party has something that's called superdelegates, which are elected officials. Pretty much, I think every Democratic member of Congress, every Democratic senator, I'm sure every former president, whatever, was a superdelegate,
right?
And so they had the same votes as regular delegates, and so this was seen as a win for kind of like the Bernie Sanders wing of the Democratic Party, to the extent that such a wing of the party actually exists. It was seen as a victory for that. That ideology. The theory being that superdelegates are what cost Bernie the nomination against Hillary. I think that's not a super strong case, but I'm willing to be proven wrong on that. My question is this: is this a good thing?
No.
Is this a good thing? And let me just really quickly. I've spoken a lot, and I want to hear you guys' thoughts. But if the Republicans had superdelegates in 2016, is it possible that they would have stopped Trump from getting the nomination?
No.
If they had superdelegates,
No.
if they had superdelegates,
No.
The superdelegates were the ones that were supporting Trump.
No.
but they didn't have votes on the
No,
floor.
but if
They
did,
didn't have votes on the floor because there were no
No, but I said if
superdelegates in the
But if the
Republican.
Republican Party had superdelegates, these are all people who would easily be supporting Donald Trump. Easily.
I think
Easily.
this is a little bit of revisionism. If we go back and
Well, I mean, of
read
course it's revisionism, yeah.
if we go back and read the things that people were saying, Republican officials were saying when Trump had not yet secured the nomination, it was very much a do not fucking nominate this guy. What are you people doing? What on earth are you doing? How can you be thinking about this? And I think had there been superdelegates in the Republican nominating, they would have coalesced around a Ted Cruz or a Marco Rubio, and they would have said, we cannot have this man represent our party.
Trump had a whole game plan. We're learning now as these people get indicted.
Trump did not have a plan. Trump
He
is
had
not.
a-
He
no.
is not. He is not a strategic thinker.
They-
He is a gut player in the moment. He does not think.
No,
he
but-
is.
okay.
He is even as a checkers player. He can't even think
How do you
two
how
moves
do you
ahead.
how do you how do you navigate 70,000 votes then?
What do you mean navigate 70,000 votes?
Like, how do you understand how to apportion the country in such a way so as to know exactly where you need to put this man to stand in front of people to get them out to vote?
I think his gift was understanding what people wanted to hear.
I mean,
And
obviously.
he's which is the essence of being a con man. And Marco Rubio called him a con man during the primary.
Right.
And he was 100% right. Donald Trump is a con man.
He's a master con man.
He is a
He's the smartest dummy Putin could find.
So
the key to any good con man. Okay, there's nobody who has the con that works on everybody. So the key to being a good con man is picking your mark.
and they did.
And he picked his mark. Republican voters.
And is that not a plan that exists in the world? Is it not a plan to actually go to the Russians and say, okay, so this is the part of our campaign?
I don't think
handle.
that anybody in Trump world said, all right, let's get the racists together with the economic conservatives and let's build this coalition this way. And
If you look at
he's a gut player.
But if you look at
and a lot of people loved that he was shitting on people who supported Obama.
but at the same time, if you also look at the kinds of Facebook pages that have been shut down,
How many?
there's 652 so far.
Yeah.
But if you look at those 652, you look at the kinds of pages that they are, like there's obviously some kind of game plan. I don't know if it's like the first 20 plays like the San Francisco 49ers in 1986, but it's not that. It's
Bill Walsh is
exactly, right, yeah.
scripting his first play.
No,
20
that's
plays.
not it. That's not it at all. I think it's much less, like planned out than that. You didn't expect that one, did you?
That's nice. That's nice.
There you go. But
And
no,
I'm just stuck in the middle, like,
It's all good. So in any event, I feel like you can thank you can thank Bernie Sanders.
Ugh,
You could thank Ms. Ocasio-Cortez.
sick of Bernie.
You could also thank
Glad que sí.
you could also thank Stacey Abrams.
Mm-hmm.
You could thank all of the African American women that are running nationwide for elective office.
Ooh.
Well, this actually kind of gets me into the
And I think that's the reason why
Because
you
I
have
was getting ready to read a quote from
And I
Donald
think-
Brazil.
And I think that's the reason why you're getting rid of the superdelegates, because the Democratic Party knows that these people who are like ostracized members of the Democratic Party,
Their establishment.
are actually making the establishment push. So it's like you can't hold them back, because if you hold them back, then you're potentially holding back people that can feasibly stop the Republican onslaught.
So I have two questions about this, Michelle. Did Bernie actually win the 2016 primary? And here's what I mean by that. If you look at virtually every Democrat running is in favor of Medicare for all, is in favor of a $15 per hour minimum wage. Several planks of the Sanders platform are now conventional and received wisdom in the Democratic Party. It's moved the Overton window to the left. You didn't think I was going to drop that, did you?
I love it.
Mm-hmm.
I love
Has
it.
moved the Overton window within the Democratic Party to the left. Did Bernie, by losing, actually kind of win over the party as a whole? And maybe Hillary, by winning, lost the party for the establishment
Well,
as a whole.
I think
Maybe that's another way to look at it. But
yeah, I think we're lost. And I'll read the Donna Brazile after I kind of give my my take on this. I do believe that the Democratic Party is lost. The DNC is I don't want to say it's done. There needs to be some restructuring, some revamping with some things, and having the priorities of what needs to be done revisited. Did Bernie win? It's like a yes/no. He definitely lost. More people put their backing with Hillary.
they did, for sure.
Definitely did, not realizing how much we were up against with Trump,
Yeah.
not knowing that, all that was brewing. Because
Also underestimating the antipathy for Hillary Clinton.
right, like, what have I always said? Everybody went to sleep the Wednesday after the election. After
2008.
in 2008, everybody went to sleep. You all went to sleep because Putin was like, "Oh, I've got 8 years to figure this out," and that's exactly what he did. He probably did it in less than 8 years. Donna Brazile said, "At a time when we're trying to figure out as a party if we're going to disenfranchise those who are party leaders, party officials, party donors, party activists, and the grassroots, I think this would just really kick the you-know-what out of us." And she means that. And I love the
She
fact,
means that as a negative, but that sounds more like a feature than a bug.
No, it's okay.
because I love how they still go to, this is NPR. They're like, "Donna, we're coming to you. We need a quote."
The hardest thing about this is that Hillary's entire strategy in 2016 was to stare at Bernie Sanders and look at the Democratic Party and go,
This what
you
y'all,
know this man is against the status quo.
right? This what y'all want.
Yeah, it wasn't even that. It wasn't even negative. It was just principled. Like, we are representing the status quo. We think the status quo is enough. The status quo is as established, by the way, by he who shall not be named, the black man who was president
Right.
for 8 years.
Right. I mean,
You know.
he divided us totally.
He did, but again,
Bernie
the
or
great
Barack?
The greatest thing that Barack ever did was that he maintained, elevated, and celebrated the status quo. Like, he created a status quo. He created a base level of Americanism,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and he celebrated it every day in every ounce of his fiber of being. And Hillary just stood there behind Barack's entire.
Yeah.
This is the problem. She stood behind Barack's entire
Because she's
platform.
always been behind.
Right. And she's like, "Hey, remember all of this stuff? That's the status quo that we liked. Nothing was advanced or changed. Like, healthcare was obviously going to get gutted, like McCain-Feingold. And that's going to happen at some point, more than likely. And it's like, she's like, okay, so do you like this? Or do you like the socialists?
Yeah, I mean, that was clearly her strategy.
And it's like-
I'm sure it would have been the strategy, too, had Bernie actually won the primary and taken on Trump in the general. I'm sure you would have heard socialist every day,
Right.
I always ask the
4
question to people,
seconds.
do you know how many African Americans have worked for Bernie in his congressional offices?
Well, somebody call all those African Americans in Vermont and get them
Two.
into D.C. so that we can
Two.
so he can increase his representation.
I said two.
Those may be the only 2 black people in Vermont. That's my point.
But I'm talking
That's
about
100% of the
I'm
black
talking about-
population.
No, I'm talking about here. I'm not just talking about Vermont. I'm talking about here.
So,
Well,
but
most
that's,
people,
that's
but people in
Two.
congressional offices usually
No.
look for people from their state.
no, but I'll tell you the
or
thing
from their
about the
district.
thing
but
about,
still.
the thing about Bernie as well.
Even
But
here in DC.
shout out to Simone.
And this-
Simone to me did.
She's great.
Simone did an
And
amazing
this is why
job.
I like,
The good Sanders.
Ocasio-Cortez. I enjoy her because she's from New York City.
Yes.
And so this is why she's a superstar now, because we finally got the socialist even though like she's still rough around the edges when it comes to the interviews, and she's not like press ready at all.
She'll get
Bronx
there.
Puerto Ricans like, I've been here all the time.
Right.
She'll get there.
And it's like, but the Democratic Socialist wing of the Democratic Party now has their nexus hub in New York City. It's not like in the wilderness of Vermont. As a person who loves going to Vermont on vacation, I do.
I do love Vermont. It's beautiful.
It's in the
I wanna go.
Okay.
I want to go.
It's in the hinterlands. There's nothing going on. That's the best part about Vermont. Is you turn on the
If the
news.
state of Vermont wants to sponsor DCTBD,
Yeah.
we'll even do a mobile remote.
Yes. Yes, we will.
If you turn on the news, like there's like 3 states in the union where if you turn on the news,
Are they legal? Marijuana legal in
Yeah.
Vermont?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, okay, we good.
Yeah. So there's three states where you turn on the news in the morning and you're just like, this is not happening anywhere else in the world.
Oh, yeah.
You turn on the news in Maine, you turn on the news in New Hampshire, you turn on the news in Vermont. There are things that are happening on the news in there, up there that have nothing to do with the rest of the universe. So it's like the trans woman, like
In Vermont,
in
yeah.
Vermont,
She's
In
running
Vermont.
governor.
is
probably
the
gonna
governor.
win.
Yeah, she's
Yeah.
probably gonna win. The trans woman's gonna be the governor. Why? Because there's a level of like progressive politics there, where like you could be progressive and you don't infringe upon anybody else doing anything.
You're in your own lane.
Right. So like when Cortez wins in New York City, now you're infringing upon people. You're
Yeah.
actually infringing upon people. Like this is a real thing. Like, oh my God, this is crazy. Then you have Stacey Abrams, who's a black female who's going to be the governor of Georgia.
From your lips to God's ears, that's gonna be a tough race, man. That's gonna be a tough
No,
race.
she's going to win because
gonna win.
she's going to pull like okay. So any one thing you know about Atlanta,
Hot.
because that's the key to the whole race. By the way, is she's going to
Well,
mobilize.
obviously, yeah. If you're a black woman running in Georgia,
Right.
yeah,
She's
Atlanta's
gonna
going to be pretty
mobilize
important to you.
Atlanta and Fulton County.
Yeah.
They're going to turn out. It's going to be like Obama style,
It's rough crowds down
like
there.
standing in front of the polling place, like Obama style turn up.
Like you got to realize she had standing room only events,
Man, from
campaign
your lips to God's
events.
ears, I really hope she wins that race. I really
so,
hope
but
she.
in the midst of all of that, like the Democratic Party's like, wait. They're, and here's the problem with the Democratic Party right now too, is they're looking for the white lady.
Oh God.
Like they're actively trying to like find Elizabeth Warren and like
No, leave Elizabeth where
and they're
she
looking for Kirsten Gillibrand and people like that. They're
No.
like, where's the white lady? Because we know with the white lady we know what we have.
No, let them go.
And they're not, and that's what they have to do now. And this is why they're now like, okay. So we understand that these people that we have positioned as party leaders for, the next like 20 years after, the terror of the Trump win, like literally 500 days later, you're like, well, they're not going to really do the job. So we need to find these new leaders, and they're all going to be people that we just generally don't, for lack of a better term, fuck with.
Oh, well,
So now we have to like
Ain't
get rid
on
of these
my
super
radar.
delegates and like let them get to the front immediately, because we need them like to stand there and stare down whatever whether it's Trump or it's whomever running from the Republican Party.
And I'm being devil's advocate in some way. I'm not sitting here saying that I'm a huge fan of super delegates, but I think that statement you're putting an awful lot of faith in voters, because what we've seen is that without some kind of a break on the process, without some kind of establishment break on the process, you can quickly lose control of that process, and we saw that happen in the Republican Party in 2016. And look, Hillary should not have lost that race. There's a million factors.
It was hard to get it out,
Discussed
huh?
it. We've discussed it ad nauseum. We don't need to relitigate, but
We're going to a four party. It's not going to work.
Listen, you flipped 75,000 votes out of about close to 150 million, 160 million that were cast. You flipped 70,000 votes, which is less than 1%. And Hillary's president, and we're talking about what have the Republicans done to themselves.
Right.
They nominated Trump. There was no adult in the room who could stand up and say, look, we can't do this. This is wrong. and now we're living with those consequences.
Well, I will tell you what is wrong is that Nicki Minaj is staring at me, and I don't,
I'm going to put it like this. I'm going to say,
and I feel uncomfortable.
As a final point about this, I guess, it's not going to work.
For the Democrats?
Yeah.
All right, we'll see.
It doesn't, because you're going to end up.
You don't believe that there's a blue wave?
Are we going to quote this
ready to
on
crash?
9:07
No,
p.m.?
it doesn't. There's okay, because Americans, and as a socialist, a Chinese socialist, like you
Chinese
said,
socialists.
Americans are deathly afraid of socialism.
Yes.
Deathly, like
We
they
don't-
still because McCarthyism worked really well. Americans are deathly afraid of anything socialist.
Some Americans are. Many Americans.
The Americans
are
who
not.
vote. The Americans who vote.
The Americans who vote in greater proportion. Yes.
Yes, deathly afraid.
But if you're a millennial, so I don't even know how old millennials are. Let's say you're 20. That might even be.
This is your
Under
first. This
32.
is your first election then.
This is your first election. You're 20 years old. Your first presidential election coming up in 2020. All you have known in your memory is the post-2008 crash.
Yeah.
And what capitalism is to you is most people you know struggle, and the Real Housewives flaunt their riches and wealth on TV, or at least the appearance of, because I frankly think some of those ladies broke.
Well, like my auntie said,
They broke.
like my auntie said, I've lived in Potomac since '72, and I've never seen those women before.
That's the one. I actually think the Potomac one is the one that has the highest percentage of broke ass ladies. So anyway,
Pure dipshittery.
pure dipshittery.
But shout out to one of the line producers. Hey, girl. Okay. Anyway.
All right, we're not going to talk Nicki Minaj.
Good, because she's over there staring at me, and I'm feeling a little insecure this evening.
She's staring at me, actually.
Whatever. I wish you would turn your computer
Onika.
around the
All right, here. There we go.
Thank you.
There we go.
Feeling some
Onika.
type of way over here.
We're going to talk about Nicki Minaj.
You
what's
can't
going on.
you
We were
can't
gonna
even
have
get her name out.
Nicki Mellon. Yeah, we were gonna have an intervention with Nicki tonight, but
There is no
think
need.
she's gonna have to-
She
she's gonna
needs.
have to hold
First of all,
she's gonna have to hold up.
as much work as she has had done, she looks like she's been eating off my plate. Doesn't that stuff pop after a while? Or stretch?
She's got the good stuff. She's the only one. She
didn't get to K. Michelle.
All right.
No, she didn't get to K. Michelle. No,
She didn't
not
get to
the-
K.
not the-
Michelle.
not the
Poor
little-
K.
not the-
Michelle.
Not
K-
the granules.
K. Michelle really, she was like, I was really in hotel rooms getting injections in my ass. Baby, you went to FAMU.
Yes.
You know that's my family
She was
school,
going to be a
so-
trained educator.
Poor thing. And then she pledged that sorority. Welcome to
There you have it.
DCTBD.
There are levels of like inside
That's what-
politics blackness
It's
they have
inside
on this show.
HBCU.
Inside HB, I mean, y'all know I am all day HBCU, so just that's just
Phenomenal.
in me, you know.
Phenomenal.
Pause.
My wife and I had this discussion the other night. Is North Carolina A&T, is that
Yes.
an HBCU?
Yes,
All right,
absolutely.
yes.
It's across the street from the school that I went to.
Yeah.
That is Bennett College.
I got that.
For women. Shout out to all the Bennett Bells out there. You know.
Shout out.
Yeah, because we spend a lot of time.
Shout out to my beautiful wife, who is usually right.
Yeah.
This time.
My father would call like on Saturday mornings and say, Michelle, this is your father. No shit. I paid tuition for you to go to Bennett College. Why are you over at North Carolina A&T? Because I want to be. Okay, anyway.
This is where the better parties are.
Oh, God, where are they? Ooh,
I guess.
Yeah, college. Anyway.
All right, we're down to our last 10 minutes, so let's try to
Yes.
we each get a choice, a bish or a favorite thing.
Oh, that's kind of hard. I have
All
mine.
right, if you got two, you got...
So mine is the same topic, but it's a bish and it's my favorite thing.
Okay, then let's go Marcus first.
Yeah.
What do you got? What do you got for us?
Gosh, my favorite thing is that we're a week away from Last Week Tonight coming back on television, because the Sacha Baron Cohen This Is America show
What the
is
hell
really
was-
bad.
What
Is
was
it?
that?
It's really bad. And
He needs to
I
stop.
haven't watched. I don't have Showtime.
Okay, so it's frustrating for me
terrible.
because
Really?
Sacha Baron Cohen, right? It's like it's a diminishing. It's a law of diminishing returns with his style of humor because it's so physical and it's so gross.
But
And-
people keep falling for it.
Because there's a base level of like Trump supporter type people who are on the other side of that are willing to watch the wacky sort of brown British man do things on television with his sort of wacky sort of brown British man sensibilities.
Yeah.
And it's frustrating.
He is not Benny
Okay.
Hill.
So last week tonight, coming back.
Yeah.
That's your favorite. That's
It's
gonna
my
be
favorite thing because I think John Oliver has a real space to actually be significant in the conversation.
Yeah, for sure. I'm gonna really quickly my bish. As we sit here, we are officially, and for those people who don't know, I am a proud University of Michigan graduate. I bleed maize and blue.
You're
Michigan
literally wearing
football.
maize and blues right now.
I
You're
am
wearing-
literally
yeah.
wearing. This is Darth Vader with the Michigan.
Luke, I
Helmet.
am your father.
Yes, sir. And we start a week, on Saturday night against Notre Dame.
Yes.
The two winningest programs in college football history. Going at it. I don't want to hear this.
No.
But my bish is with college football preseason analysis because it's like
They haven't started yet.
nobody does any homework. They just basically go by what happened last year.
Right.
And they assume that that's what's going to happen this year.
Right.
Like if you go through on ESPN, I was watching their preseason, and everybody is picking. All right, pick your Final Four playoff teams. Well, it's going to be Clemson. It's going to be Alabama. It's going to be and then the other two are wild cards. But everybody's got Clemson. Everybody's got Alabama. Everybody's got everybody's got Ohio State winning the Big Ten. When we all know, at the end of the day, it's going to be Michigan.
Right. I mean, well, Ohio State's got their own mess of issues to do
Ohio State's
now.
Ohio State's got a mess of issues, but it's just this is the time of year where I'm just literally I am starved. I'm craving college football analysis content. I want validation of my I'm sure wild beliefs that Michigan's going to win the national title this year when my hopes are probably going to be dashed by mid-October. I'm so starved for content, and the content is such shit. It's such garbage. So that's my bitch for this week. College football preseason analysis. Any asshole can see what they happened last year and be like, oh, that's probably what's going to happen again this year.
Never works that way.
Garbage.
Oh, God. Well, as I'm now viewing a video of John McCain dancing at somebody's go-go, I'll share that later. It was just sent to me.
At Shelby of DC.
At Shelby of DC.
There it is.
On Twitter. That's the only thing you can follow me on. I may change that,
You're blocked. You're blocked on all the
I
others.
am blocked on all those. Facebook tried to take me down last week.
Don't slide in her DMs.
You better stay out. So my
Best stay out.
oh God, my bish for the week is definitely the French Open.
Wow.
Yeah.
Doesn't the French Open take place in June?
Yeah, they took an L, though.
You can suck everything out of the behinds of every black woman, every white woman, every Hispanic woman, every woman on the face of this earth that has ever given birth, not given birth, tried to give birth, can't give birth. Suck it all. Because how...
Don't say that to Don Jr.
Never mind. How can you, as an organization, but I get it, you don't understand anything about the female body. For you to sit up there and decide to tell Serena...
Yeah, so
Let us know exactly what you're...
No, I know where she's going with this.
Oh, I'm so sorry. The French Tennis Association has told, basically the French Open, has told Serena Williams that she has been banned from wearing her black catsuit. Her black catsuit that Nike made for her to basically keep her from having blood clots while she was playing.
It also helps when she's on the rooftop fighting with Batman.
No, the thing with the catsuit is that
Well, welcome to DCTBD.
No, the
This
French-
is just what we do.
the French Tennis Association is fearful of going down the Black Panther hole.
Well, I mean, here's the thing.
They are. That's literally the reason why.
I think Serena's going to get on the court and she's going to go. Let's go.
Let's talk about the white cat suit that was worn. Tennis player, last name K, something.
Kournikova.
And it was like was it 1985, 1995 or
Kournikova would have been 96, 97.
somebody had a white like cat suit style.
But Anna Kournikova was a Russian supermodel.
And so Serena is just a stacked cornbread muffin that.
No, Serena's an athlete.
Serena's a fucking athlete.
No,
She's an athlete.
She's a beast.
Yeah, exactly. That's problematic for a lot of people still.
That's bullshit.
It's problematic, and
It's bullshit.
I feel like
Sorry, I can't define any of my other words
no,
this
it's totally
evening.
understandable. Like I feel like the real issue with Serena is that she's still dominant. Like if she was not, if she were like,
Would you get on the court with her?
no, not at all. But no, it's like the thing. So it's like if she were an also ran at this point of her career, and she wanted to like have a child and wear a Black Panther catsuit, no problem, no problem at all.
And had a pretty belt
whatsoever.
to go with it.
Right, like no problem at all whatsoever. Serena's doing the thing for like Black Power, Black Pride. That's cool. But when the black woman who's wearing the black catsuit and is also like going to win the tournament demonstrably in a way that's like really, really obviously like demonstrable, like she's going to like demolish everybody.
I don't even know how to spell demonstrable, so okay.
So it's like, okay, we have to see this thing for like 6 rounds.
You damn right.
Like, that's not
I'm wearing a black cat suit next week on dctbd.
There it is, folks.
Yes!
All the more reason to tune in.
But my favorite, so I told you it was going to roll
Sorry, I
into
had to-
one.
all
right, let's hear it,
Lord,
let's hear it,
everybody,
let's
the microphones are going to melt. Lord, have
got
mercy.
I got excited.
Everybody got excited for next week. My favorite thing is still correlated to Serena Williams and the banning of her black cat suit is because the queen, Billie Jean, stepped up and said, y'all wrong as hell for doing this. I'm going to speak out.
Billie Jean Queen.
Yep.
Yeah.
Billie Jean King.
Billie Jean King.
Yeah.
She is the queen.
She is the queen.
Yeah. So that's all I got.
Yeah.
That's all we got. 9:20, and
we got y'all.
killing it. Absolutely killing it here.
Insecure.
Thank you to everybody for tuning in to another episode of DCTBD.
Yeah.
Thank you to Mike, Nick, setting everything
Yes,
up,
thank you.
having our back, making us look good. Thank you to One Love Massive for sponsoring us. Thank you to the good people here at Mind Space.
Absolutely.
Absolutely not. Do not refer to it as Mindscape.
No, it is not
No,
Mindscape. It is Mind
Mind
Space.
Space.
We don't have anything to do with Mindscape. It is Mind Space. We're in the
Mind
Washington
Space.
Post building
Yes.
here in downtown Washington,
We are
D.C.
on K Street.
We're on K Street, yeah. We moving on up.
Do you
Real
know
thing.
We're moving
how?
on up. We
Real
George and
thing.
Wheezy this bitch.
We Georgia
George
Wheezy.
and Wheezy. I'm going to do my George Jefferson walk at some point. It's going to happen.
I did post that as a gift.
I know you did. It was wonderful.
That was
Loved
great.
it.
That was great. All right. Well, thank you guys very much. Good night.
All right.
Peace.
Peace.